Greetings guys, it's Irish here. In this video I thought I would just do a vlog on my Gentoo encryption just to show you guys what I did and how the whole process was. So on the right hand side is what I wrote down from Meshy's encrypted LVM Gentoo Plymouth install video, and I interwoven it into with the rest of the install for Gentoo. So under his video, it just did like the basic stuff to get the base install for LVM Lux. But with this one, I did everything all out, where I interwoven stuff from the handbook into with this. So I ran into maybe one or two issues. So the first one was right when I untarred it, went into it. So the tar xjvpf, so my previous Gentoo installs, when you type that in, like this whole string of numbers here, or the whole string, you would see the lines going down, getting everything set for you to chroot into it. However, it was blank. I didn't realize it was actually going through. I thought it was a bad install, but everything worked just fine. So maybe that's what it is now. I don't know. It's been like a few months. Maybe they changed it within a few months since my last Gentoo install on my laptop here. The other one was getting the binds correctly. So I wasn't binding everything where I need it to be. So like the host run and the make sure you're binding it here. So you have to make sure that the LVME TAD was binded to your chrooted environment. So everything was fine. Excuse me. But after that, I also did not do the dev correctly, so I'm actually going to change this now. As you see written down, it says rbind/dev, but it's actually supposed to be \dev. So if you don't put these devs correctly, then the rest of the stuff will not work. You'll run into an issue where just like on some of my compiles, it just did not work because dev was looking, dev has a certain thing in there called SHM, and if you don't have that, then a lot of some compiles won't won't go through. I also tried to do the NTP on the install, but I don't know if it was working that well, because granted it still was doing another time than mine. So I think if you just say date, month, date, hour, minute, and year, it just works fine, because later on you'll actually set your time zone and everything. But everything went fine for the most part, except for the gen kernel. This make ops -- make ops equals J3 didn't work for me, but in Meshy's video it worked just fine for him. But if you take that out and do the menu config LVM Lux all, it works just fine. However, I did try to I had another so if you look down here, let me see here, Dropbox. So I wrote down and put everything into my Dropbox account what I needed to do. So if we go into the kernel mods, so these are the kernel mods that I was using in the previous Gentoo with my homemade kernel, so everything was working. I thought I put these in the gen kernel, however it didn't work. So what I did was create my own gen kernel, or I took from a previous install or from a previous kernel that I saved. Luckily I saved it and copied it over. So now I actually have technically two kernels, the gen kernel and the one that I had previous. I just had to add the LVM, the Plymouth, and the Lux or the decrypt into this old kernel, and everything worked fine, sort of. I'll get to that. So fstab is interesting. It didn't take too long to, again, a lot of this stuff is pretty good. I was planning on maybe doing UEFI, but from what Meshi told me, and I did some comments under his video, apparently with the gen kernel next, it doesn't work well. There's some issues with it, but maybe the draw cut that I used for my system D would actually work, but there wasn't a whole lot of example configs on to do LVM Lux on Gentoo with UEFI, so I gave up, didn't turn on UEFI, and continued on with what his video was since he did get it up and running. So this is the under the Etsy default grub, you have to add these in there, and I made sure everything was still up and running. And then like he did in his video, the grub mkconfig, that LVME had failed again. So I'm gonna guess it doesn't hold, the binds don't hold for that long. So I had to remount it, add my username, remove the stage 3, do cronny syslog ng and network manager, and then I had to make sure the update. The LVM boot is definitely important because your root partition is under the LVM on there. So if that doesn't, start at boot, you can't get into your system. Now with the Plymouth, everything worked fine with Plymouth. However, in his video, you see the whole screen. It's a gray screen to type in your encrypted password, and then it shows 3 dots. I'm probably going to do a separate video just to show you the boot process because I'm still having some issues. So before I moved over to the previous kernel that I had on my old Gentoo system, everything worked fine except when it got to the prompt for me to log in, it froze on TTY1. Now I don't know exactly why it does that, so I don't know if it's a Plymouth thing or if it's just a bug in general, but to log in I had to go into TTY2 just to do anything because it froze up. I thought it was something else. So with the gen kernel and Plymouth it worked just fine. However, when I moved to the newer kernel, I have to decrypt my hard drive twice before getting into grub, which does not make sense for me. So I don't understand what's going on. I am going to post that video after this one, and hopefully you guys can tell me what I need to do to fix that. Maybe it is a Plymouth thing, but I highly doubt it because it could be a grub thing. I don't know. Hopefully you guys can answer it. But with Meshi, it was just a gray background where you could type it in. Apparently it's supposed to have some sort of picture behind it. In the gen kernel, there's a splash which you can uncomment that out and say splash, but that doesn't do anything. So I don't know if maybe Meshi, if you see this video, if you figured it out or not, let me know. I may turn off Plymouth altogether because I don't know if I like that, because I do like to see the lines going down to see if anything did fail on me. And then everything else after that, once you reboot, everything worked fine. So his video actually did work as it's supposed to, which was really good, especially with the grub. Maybe with the grub, maybe I have to reinstall it. Yeah, I'll wait for your guys' comments, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like with LSBLK. So as you see, the SDA1 is that BIOS grub thing because SDA2, 3 are GPT. So without that little 2 megabyte partition under a GPT partition system, it doesn't boot up. Uh, BIOS doesn't look or looks for something similar to that. But SDA2 is my boot. I have some swap. My root system has 70 gigs just because I download some stuff, and anytime you download something with a config, it takes up more room on your root drive. And then I do have a separate home, which, to be honest, I could probably have just gone for a full, like a swap and a root partition, because the purpose of having a separate home partition is in case you have to reinstall, you don't have to start all over with downloading and all your stuff onto the home partition. You just needed to do the root or in the boot and the swap again, and everything should still be there. However, under a LVM, if I have to reinstall anyway, I have to get rid of this anyway, re-encrypt it, so all of this is going to be gone anyway. So it's up to you if you want a home. It's just nicer to separate home and the root partition. Same thing with boot. But yeah, it's once you get past the general install, it's fine. It's really simple. Let me know if you guys want my Gentoo encrypted guide on this. I don't know if I would want to put that though, because under some of this stuff it says refer to Dropbox, because I do have my make.conf in here. I do have my make.conf from my old one, so I would reference this on top of the other use flags and stuff like that, so I don't have to start fresh like the emerge defaults. So a lot of this stuff is still in there, is still in my current make.conf, but I like to have this as a reference point, so it just makes it simpler that way. Unfortunately, as I was doing the install, I was doing this over lunch and after work. I went up to go back to work, and I completely dropped my computer on the floor. So my laptop, on the left hand side, the hinges are broken. So my lid will not shut. So this is pretty much a makeshift desktop, which I already have one downstairs. So I went and took it to a couple people. I would have to replace the hinge, and I would have to replace the backboard with that and labor. It was like $300. So I might say screw it and get a new computer. So I'm looking at a new laptop, so I'm thinking about a i5 8200 series, which should have about 4 cores and 8 threads, 8 gigs of RAM. So I don't know if I want to go to Dell, Toshiba, or HP. I did look at System 76, but those are way expensive and I can't afford those right now. So let me know which laptop brand you guys suggest. I've been on Dell for the last 5 years, so let me know what type of laptop you guys use, and especially with Gentoo, because obviously Gentoo is going to come on the new laptop. So, but I thought I would just share my experiences with doing the LVM encrypted Gentoo install. It did take a week, but I only did it for a couple hours here and there, and unfortunately I broke my laptop. So, but yeah, let me know if you guys want that guide that I wrote up, and I'll talk to you. I will post the boot up process uh, in a little bit, and there's not going to be any sound or anything else like that. You'll just see where I have to decrypt everything twice, and grub takes forever to go. So let me know what you guys think in that video. So thanks, and I'll talk to you next video.